What's up, everybody? Jordan Stewart here from Vover. Thanks so much for tapping into the Vover original show. Just a reminder that if you want to drop your opinions about the episode or respond to the host and guests with your voice, go and download the Vover app wherever you get your apps. Vover, voice over everything. Enjoyed the show.
What's going on, Vover Wrestling? It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's time for another edition of the 3 Count. I am your host, Regular Scott. This week, we are going to take a look at a bad message being sent by WWE to its locker room this weekend with the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. We're also going to take a look at some of the fallout from Money in the Bank, some big returns, big matchups, some big victories. And then we're going to wrap up taking one long look at the women's division from the Raw roster after the big shakeup on Monday Night Raw. So without further ado, let's get right to things. Money in the Bank happened this weekend, and before we jump into the main show, I wanted to talk about what I thought was a pretty blatantly oblivious and just blind eye message to the locker room by having Jimmy Uso win the tag team titles with his brother Jay, Main Event Jay, who, by the way, has been phenomenal this last year and should in no way feel the wrath of this punishment, but you know, you are, and you're who you're with, who you're associated with are affected by your actions. Jey Uso had a DUI and was arrested, and this is, I believe his third DUI. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's at least his third DUI, and he's just returning from a torn ACL, where he pretty much missed all of last year. This isn't a first-time thing, and I don't think this sends the message to the locker room where this is not going to be tolerated. You know, you make a mistake, okay, we get that, but you keep making the same mistake, there's a problem. You know, there's a bigger issue at play, and I do hope that the help that's needed is being given. And he is being forced to go get. I know there's only so much you can do, but he needs to at least be getting nudged along that way. And him getting a tag title reign out of this is, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous. You have a good thing going with the Mysterios, Dominic and Rey. Dominic's been getting better in the ring every time I see him in a tag match. It doesn't make sense. Well, let me rephrase that. It makes perfect sense storyline-wise. But when you're talking real life, I can't get behind a decision like that. It's not a good look for the company, for Vince McMahon, to essentially be rewarding Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso for being in a great storyline, regardless of what he does in real life. You know, this is a third time this has happened. Unacceptable. And, you know, I don't agree with this decision. I don't agree with if the DUI doesn't happen, I think this is a fantastic move. You know, and I at this point I would be arguing it should have been on the main show, if anything. But you can't reward that. You can't make that seem like it's just going to be a slap on the wrist. I mean, what punishment did he get? You know, or are we just looking the other way? Because the next time this happens with somebody, you know, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you. What are you going to do? If you punish them, it's now you have a clear double standard. Oh, if you're not related to Roman Reigns, you're in trouble. Oh, if you're related to somebody big, you're good. Oh, if you're in a big storyline, you're good. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's really one of the few negatives from the Money in the Bank show. So let's move on from that. Again, not a good look, WWE. Just be better. I get wanting to reward Jay because Main Event Jay has been fantastic. Give him an IC title reign. It doesn't have to be a long one. Just let his name be in the record books. Let him hold that title. Let him and Roman be standing side by side with all the gold. You could take Jimmy off TV and explain it as simple as Roman Reigns said he don't need to show up no more until he figured some things out himself. Bam. People will buy it. He's head of the table. It'd be simple as that. Jay can have the IC title. That's a lot of fun. People get behind main event Jay. I just think there's other ways you could have done this. Let's talk about Money in the Bank. Let's get to our second count of the day. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view happened. Like I said, the Usos pinned the Mysterios. Storyline-wise, it worked. Not happy about it with the circumstances surrounding the real life. But there were other matches on the show, and I thought it was a pretty good show. The women's Money in the Bank started it off. Probably the weakest Money in the Bank ladder match we've ever had, maybe. I think maybe the SmackDown match is probably in contention. The SmackDown one where James Ellsworth didn't win and they had Carmella win. That's probably near the bottom, I think, as well. So that's probably in contention. But it was okay. It was not a great match. It definitely wasn't, up to the standard of the high standard of Money in the Bank matches, but it was okay. Nikki Ash wins that match. Nikki Gordon, formerly Nikki Cross, big win for her. I thought Zelina Vega could win. A lot of good reactions from the crowd. Naomi got a great reaction. So did Asuka. Alexa Bliss got a really good reaction. She started doing her voodoo stuff. People started just zoning out. So there's that. After that, we had AJ and Omos defeating the Viking Raiders by pinfall. Some good double team moves from AJ and Omos. One where Omos sends AJ to the outside. I think it was Eric he caught into a Hurricane Rana. That was really nice. They've done a really good job with Omos. They've built him up well. They've limited what he does, but what he does, he makes looks impressive. So it's been really well done. He's looking strong. This tag team's looking strong. I expect them to face Riddle and Orton for the titles at SummerSlam. And that should be a good match as well. Following that, we had the WWE title match, a historic WWE title match. I believe this is only the fourth time two black wrestlers have faced off in a major promotion for a World Heavyweight Championship. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is the first time in WWE history two black wrestlers have faced off for the WWE Championship. So a historic match. You wouldn't know it by how the match went. Bobby Lashley dominated. And I talked about this on a preview show. This could work. I hate that it had to be Kofi, but Kofi's a sympathetic figure that builds Lashley up well. And, we'll get to it. The Fallout Goldberg shows up later on Raw. So that there's a reason for it. But, yeah, Lashley just mauled through him. This was essentially just a one-sided squash match. Kofi got a couple of hope spots in, but that's about it. Following that, we have arguably match of the night. It was at least the best straight up singles match of the night. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley, or it's in the running. Roman versus Edge was really good too. Charlotte Flair defeats Rhea Ripley by submission for the Raw Women's Championship, and this was a fantastic match. The match started off, the crowd was invested, or the crowd was hot, let me say that. Hot for Becky Lynch. Wanted Becky from the jump. Flair flips him off. It's really set the tone for the match. And I think that really lit a fire under Flair. And maybe Flair lit a fire under Rhea or whatever. Or maybe just them chanting Becky did. But because they went out there and put on a banger. They have really good chemistry. I thought they put on the best match at WrestleMania a couple of years ago. This was fantastic. Charlotte Flair really, she gets a lot of flack because she's pushed hard and she's constantly in the main event picture, but she's fantastic. She's a great wrestler. She showed it here. Rhea Ripley showed why people were so high on her coming up from NXT. I understand why she lost the title now, with what happened on Raw, and we'll get to that. But again, this was a fantastic match between Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. I would go out of my way to check this one out. Next up, we had the Money in the Bank match, the men's Money in the Bank match. And Big E, crowd favorite, picks up the victory. And this was probably match of the night. I think big spots all around. Ricochet showed why he's arguably the greatest high flyer in the game right now. John Morrison started getting the crowd behind him. Again, just a field of just uber talented guys. I thought they all played their roles really well. Seth Rollins showed great emotion after the match, frustration. This was really well done. Kevin Owens, again, takes another huge bump. Seth Rollins tossing him, powerbombing him through the ladder. Matt Riddle, little things like Matt Riddle hitting the Orton RVD spot where he yanks him off by his leg, catches him into an RKO. So that was really a nice touch. He's doing it for his guy, Orton. Real nice touch there. Great match. Another one. Once Lashley and Kofi, I hate to say it, gets out the way, the last 3 matches are all really good. The pay-per-view really hits another level. And then we wrap up with Roman Reigns defeating Edge. A little long. I probably would have shaved off about maybe 8 minutes, maybe 6 to 8 minutes. I think you could have got the same result. But Roman Reigns dominated at least the first 15 minutes. And then after that, we really started to get into a back and forth flow. I thought they did a really good job. Seth Rollins comes out, cost Edge the match. It really set up and really sets things going for SummerSlam with Seth Rollins versus Edge. And then after the match, we have we have the biggest, just a monstrous reaction for John Cena. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about a pop. You want to talk about a reaction. This guy got a reaction. John Cena's music hits and that place erupts. I had goosebumps watching it. It was a fantastic moment, one that's going to be played for a while. This is the second time John Cena's had a reaction like this on a return. You remember in the Royal Rumble, maybe 07, 08, somewhere along those lines. I don't know, maybe not 07, 08, but when he had it tore his pec with Randy Orton, and he came back in the Rumble as a surprise entrant. It was that kind of reaction, just fantastic, great reaction. Really looking forward, and they really did a great job kicking off the road to SummerSlam. So now let's wrap up with the final count. Actually, before that, they set up the big matches for SummerSlam, so it looks like we're going to get Roman Cena, Goldberg return to Raw, so it looks like we're going to get Lashley Goldberg, Edge Rollins. That's big right there. Those are 3 big matches. Three big matches that are your foundation. That's solid foundation right there. Let's move on to Monday Night Raw. Like I said, Goldberg showed up, confronted Bobby Lashley. This will be our last count also. So that looks like that's setting up the women's title situation. Let's wrap up here. Nikki Ash cashes in after Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair have a rematch. Match ends in DQ. Nikki Ash comes out, cashes in on Charlotte Flair, becomes the new Raw Women's Champion. It makes sense why Charlotte won, and I feel like it was done because the reaction was going to be a lot greater for Nikki Ash cashing in on Charlotte than it would have been on Rhea. This feels very similar to The Miz winning the WWE title from Drew McIntyre for Lashley to cash in. The reaction and the story you want fits better when it's, Charlotte Flair losing the title, or it was The Miz losing the title. So there was the reason for it. Makes sense now. And this is something you revisit down the road. Rhea Ripley has to get that victory over Charlotte Flair. That one-on-one victory over Charlotte Flair. It has to come. This is now a feud that you can do at Mania without the title. Flair doesn't need to be involved at Mania with the title, and you can have Rhea Ripley beat her down the road. You set yourself up for that if you're smart enough to do that. Hopefully they are. Nikki Ash is the champion. Interesting. I don't see this being a long-term thing. I definitely think this is a short reign. Honestly, I could even see Rhea Ripley maybe winning the title back. I'm hoping this isn't done just to boost Charlotte's title reigns up. I noticed they took off the NXT reigns, or at least she didn't mention them when she counted her reigns. She said she's an 11-time champion, 12-time champion, 11-time champion, because they took off the NXT reigns. So, I'm interested to see what they do with Nikki Ash as champion. Becky Lynch comes back. I don't really see her feuding with Nikki Ash. Does Charlotte or Rhea win the title back next week or so? That would seem like the logical way to go, unless Becky's not coming back. Or does Charlotte or Rhea win it at SummerSlam and then Becky comes back? Because I just don't see Becky coming back and confronting Nikki Ash. It doesn't make any sense. So there's intrigue there with the women's division. Something they've been lacking. They needed that. This is big for them. Naomi's also been moved from Raw to SmackDown. So, they needed, this is big for them. I'm intrigued. That's something you can't really say very often for the women's division. Well, we did it. We knocked all 3 counts out of the way. You can find me on Twitter at knee4marvelverse.dc. That's the number 4. You can also find me on the Vover app at Regular Scott. Download this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave 5 stars. Hey, be a part of the conversation on the Vover app. Let me know what you think. And as always, y'all have a good time because we're going to have a good time until we talk to y'all next time. Peace.
Vover.